This is Valley News Live at 10.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Nashay Taylor. Police say they need help locating a man who threatened to break into a woman's home this evening and to harm her. Police are looking for 28-year-old Richard Yellogan of Fargo. Authorities say they received a report about phone threats made during a domestic dispute. Police later located Yellogan, but he fled on foot and later fled in his vehicle. FPD officers caught up with him later on after Yellogan got out near 47th Avenue South and 36th Street South, where a perimeter was set up. Officers eventually were unable to find him within that perimeter. Police say Yellogan is described as a black man about 5 feet 5 inches tall. He was last seen wearing a dark hoodie with a Rolling Stones logo on it. If you see him, you're asked to call police at 911. A 31-year-old woman is in critical condition tonight after she was hit by an Amtrak train in downtown Fargo early this morning. It happened around 3:45 this morning at the railroad crossing in the 500 block of North Broadway. That's between Cowboy Jacks and Empire Liquors. Authorities say the crossing arm was functioning and that the train used its emergency horn to alert its passing. FPD also says there was no sign of foul play. Stay with the Valley News Live as this story develops. A Grand Forks woman was injured during a two-vehicle crash in rural Polk County. The crash happened shortly after 12:15 yesterday at the intersection of 290th Avenue Southwest and 170th Street Southwest. The woman was traveling east when her vehicle was struck by another vehicle going south. Two children were in the vehicle with the woman. They were secured in their car seats and were not hurt. The crash is under investigation. Well, we have a couple more days of warmer temperatures, but how soon could those cool days return? Jim is here now with details. Jim?
Thanks, Nashay. That's right. Today was another warm day here in the valley, and taking a look at our Dakota Magic Sky Cam shows that the wind has died down quite a bit too, as those flags aren't really flying anymore at this hour. Temperatures across the region are showing most people in the 40-degree range, though there are a couple 30s here at Langdon at 34 and Halleck at 39. And our sky conditions are showing most people are clear at this hour. There are some passing clouds moving from the north to the south, but for the most part, those are out of the area. The only area that's still seeing some of those clouds is the James River Basin there and a couple in Lakes Country. Here in Fargo, though, we'll continue to see those clear skies all night long as we dip into the 30-degree range, and we'll hit about 35 degrees as you're waking up tomorrow morning. And we will continue to see some warm weather for the next few days. And Nashay, I'll let you know how long we can expect that warm weather to stick around.
All right, thanks so much, Jim. Flu season is upon us, according to Sanford Health in Grand Forks. More people are signing up to get their vaccines, but some are still skeptical. Valley News Team's Aaron Walling has more.
We want our patients to be the healthiest that they can be.
Flu season has already begun, and Sanford Health is encouraging people to get their flu shot as we head into peak season.
By getting the flu vaccine, it's going to prevent them from having severe illness and symptoms.
In recent years, vaccines have become a hotbed for discussion. Some concerned that a live virus is used in the process.
I really like to try to take my time with patients and educate them on the fact that the flu vaccine doesn't give you the flu. That's a very common misconception out there.
Detterman says she has seen firsthand how influenza can turn fatal. Now she is reminding everyone that getting vaccinated isn't only about protecting yourself, but also others.
Immunization is so important for the community, for your family. Do it for the baby next door that can't get vaccinated yet.
In Grand Forks, Aaron Walling, Valley News Live.
A Fargo police officer is being recognized by the Red River Valley SWAT team for his efforts in assisting in a critical incident. Back in August, police were called to do a welfare check within the 1000 block of 35th Street North. The call later turned into a situation where an individual barricaded himself and fired shots. Officer Adam Schock, who is trained on crisis intervention, stepped in and talked with the suspect for about an hour before Red River SWAT arrived. Schock continued those negotiations after their arrival while being coached by the SWAT's trained negotiators. Schock was eventually able to convince the individual to surrender, bringing the situation to a peaceful resolve. Tensions between Russia and Ukraine are escalating after a new round of Russian strikes hit a Ukrainian city early this morning and killing at least 12 people. The strike comes after a blast that damaged a symbolic bridge linking a Moscow-controlled region of Ukraine with Russian mainland. David Daniel has the latest.
A new round of missile strikes in Ukraine hitting a civilian area. 6 Russian cruise and anti-aircraft missiles in the Ukrainian city of Zaporizhia have killed at least 12 people and injured at least 87 others, including 10 children.
That's about the only thing the Russians are good at, as they displayed so far in their invasion, is attacking civilian infrastructure or civilian dwellings.
This latest attack happening hours after a massive explosion damaged the Kerch Bridge, which was the only direct road and rail connection linking annexed Crimea and the Russian mainland. New satellite images are giving us a closer look at the damage, but despite that, Russia says it's resuming some car and train service.
It was connecting these two places that Putin said, would be together forever as he took over that part of Ukraine.
While Ukraine has not claimed responsibility for the blast, it has publicly celebrated it. Ukraine's post office is releasing new stamps showing the damage to the bridge and linking it with the sinking of the indestructible Titanic.
The Ukrainians are massively trolling Russia, but it's very serious because it kind of unleashes this idea that Ukraine is hitting at the heartland of Russia.
On Monday, Russian President Vladimir Putin is set to meet with his country's Security Council, as both Ukraine and allies worry further direct retaliation is ahead, pointing to Putin's threats to use nuclear weapons.
So that's obviously the concern everybody has.
I'm David Daniel reporting.
Top U.S. officials met with Taliban leaders yesterday for the first time since late July. It was the first time the two sides met in person since al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri was killed in Kabul by a missile strike. The U.S. has previously accused the Taliban of a violation of the Trump administration's Doha Agreement, in which they agreed not to harbor terrorists. Last month, the White House called cooperation with the Taliban on counterterrorism, quote, a work in progress. Congress is trying to close gaps in health care coverage by cutting some red tape. New legislation will take the bandages out of the brick and mortar clinics and on the road. Peter Zampa looks at how the policy will bring care to underserved and rural areas.
I think it's a great recognition of some of the equity challenges we've had in a lot of these communities.
The new Mobile Healthcare Act is designed to address healthcare deserts by prescribing clinics in vans. Carrie Cochran-McLean is the Chief Policy Officer for the National Rural Health Association. She says the legislation will bring care to these areas with mobile health clinics, rather than forcing rural residents to drive hours to offices or hospitals for issues that cannot be addressed via telehealth.
And there are just some things that you need to be able to do in a hands-on kind of fashion.
In short, this bill allows health centers to use grant funding to set up new so-called access points. Now, Nevada Senator Jackie Rosen says this is not going to cost the government any extra money.
It's really just going to expand what our health clinics can do all around, not just my state of Nevada, but every place around the country.
Rosen authored the legislation that had massive bipartisan support. Under previous law, if a healthcare center wanted to create a mobile site, they would also have to set up a permanent site. This new bill eliminates that requirement in hopes of encouraging the deployment of more mobile centers.
I hope that pretty quickly people will be able to start to take these mobile units out.
The legislation passed both chambers of Congress and is now awaiting the president to sign it into law. Reporting in Washington, I'm Peter Zampa.
A Fargo family got a great surprise. Later on Valley News Live at 10, we'll share who the surprise was from.
And tonight is the Hunter's Moon, and though we missed the peak of the full moon, which was this afternoon while the sun was still up, we do have some clear skies in the forecast, and temperatures are looking pretty decent for some moon gazing. I'll let you know what to expect coming up next.